Hey, welcome to the next part of this tutorial. On this video, we will be focusing on the two folders that we need to create in our project. So one folder for the SHA1 online workflows and then one folder for the System1 workflows. It is uh, it is advisable that we consolidate all the workflow in one folder. For example, all the workflow related to the Acme System 1, let's put that into just one folder. So we'll do that in this video, and then we will cover the System 1 login and then the System 1 that close. Okay, so the next step is we need to create folder for System 1 and the SHA1. So we can do that here in the File Explorer. So when you are here, right click and create, look for new folder. So let's name the first one System 1, and then the next one will be SHA1 Online. Alright, so going back to the UiPath Studio, once we refresh that, you will see that we have now here the two folder that we just created. Okay, so the first workflow or the first sequence that we will create is the System1 login. So let's create a new sequence. So when this pop up, make sure to select the System1 folder and make sure to name it based on what task it will be doing. So in this one, we'll name it System1 login and then hit this create button. So here in the System1 login, the next step is to create two in argument. So go here, and then the first in argument should be the System1 URL. Make sure that the direction is in, and then the second one is the System1 credential. Again, both of them should be in direction, and then both should be in the string argument type. Okay, so the next step is to use or invoke the get app credential workflow. So to check that, you'll need to expand this framework folder and then look for this get app credential. There are two ways to invoke workflow. First one is to use the activity like this, and then browse for the workflow. But I think the easiest way to do that is look for that workflow like here and then drag it to our sequence like this one. Okay, now we also need to create two variables for this sequence. So one is for the username and one for the password. So here we need to set that. So if you haven't created a variable yet, it's a good thing in UiPath you can directly create a variable. So you just need to press Control and then K. And then for example for the username, we'll just name it username. And then for the password, again hit Control then K. Let's name that password. And then here we have a default value test robot credential, but it should be the value or whatever the value of our System1 credential variable. So make sure to have these three variables, then hit OK. So now when you go to the variable part of this workflow, you can see that these are the two variables we just created, and then automatically when you create them from the invoke um, form, it will automatically assign the correct variable type. Like on this one, username should be string and then the password should be secure string. Okay, so the next activity that we need to add is the open browser. So go here to the activity panel and then type open browser, drag that here, and then the URL should be the value of our system1 URL. So just put that in here. Okay, so after you navigate to the page, make sure to maximize the window. So it I think it's advisable to control the elements inside the web page, something like that. So go ahead and look for the maximize activity or maximize window activity. Drag that in here. So while you are working on this activity, you need to simulate it. So make sure that you have an open System1 application. So wait, let me try to test this. I will put for the meantime a default value in here just for the test. Sorry, what's the okay? This one. Let's try to put that in here. And we need to disable this for the meantime. Oh, well, no, it's not. Okay, let's just try. So again, I said that I will explain what's the difference of this. What's the difference between these three buttons in here? Before there's only one in there. So when you click run file, it will only run whatever sequence or workflow is open. So in this case, if for example I have the System1 login activated, if I click run file, it will only run System1 login workflow. But if I click run, it will go back to the main workflow and run the overall framework. Now the debug is, I think it's the same with run file, but it will enable you to do debugging where you can see the value of your variables in this panel. So let's try run file. And again, I am using Microsoft Internet Explorer as the browser. Okay, so it's asking me for a credential. Oh, okay, let's say okay. I just want to app the page. Okay, because we don't have a value in here, that's why the window credential pop-up form or the AA credential form did show. So here, let me try to manually log in for the meantime. Oh, sorry, I should not go in here. Okay, we're working on the login, so we need to simulate it in this page. So go back to the studio. Now the next activity that we need is the type into activity and then indicate the email text field. Okay, so the value of this should be the username, right? And then the next activity should be the type secure text. You cannot use you cannot use type into for the password. It will not accept that value. So you need to use type secure text. This is for the password values. So again, let's indicate the password field from the page. And then here, you can see the secure text property. Then Let's set that should be equal to the value of the password. Okay, and after that we need to click this button, so let's add a click activity and indicate that button. Okay, as you can see, the highlight or A highlight is not uh, going exactly on the shape. It's because my resolution is currently set to 125%. So I would advise that you always set your display setting to 100%. So everything will be accurate. But since I am not encountering any issue yet, I'm still going on my current resolution. So again, make sure to click oh, where are we? Okay, sorry. So on this activity, make sure to um, set the simulate click property to true. So this is something new on this latest version. Before, I think it's only a checkbox, right? Where you can tick and untick that, but now they change it to this type where you need to set it to true. I'm not sure why. And here on the password, it- let's also set the simulate type to true. Same with the type into email, set that to true. Okay, now let's try to put a value in here just to test. I think that's Acme credential. Am I, am I correct? Oh, wait, let me just check this. I forgot the asset name that I used. I think that's Acme credential. Okay, it's loading. And go here. Let's check our asset. Yeah, it's Acme credential. So go back to studio and yeah, let's try this. Make sure to choose run file. Did it go through? Yeah, login was successful. Okay, so the next step is to we need to verify if the login was successful or not. Okay, so to do that, we need to set a pattern where we can identify that the login is successful. Like for example, in this one, if we found this element, then it means that the login was successful. But if not, meaning the login was failed. So we need to have an attached, element exists activity. But prior to that, let's use an attached browser activity first. So look for attached browser. Then let's put that in here. Wait, let me just minimize this and let's indicate this. So we need to edit the selector of this one. So when you are on the login page, what should it be? It's account login. So to ensure that we will not encounter an error, we need to make this as a wildcard, because the title is different when you are on the login page and when you are on the dashboard page. So make sure that the selector looks like this. Okay, now we need the element exists activity. Element exists. Oh, this is exists. Oh, there you go. Element exists. So we need to identify that pattern that we will be using. So I will be using this one. So just indicate that, and let's inspect the selector of this element. Oh, it's not capturing the complete selector. So if you encounter the same, it's always better to use this UI Explorer. So using this, you will be able to capture all the attributes of the element that you are targeting. So let's indicate again that element. So like on this one, you will be able to select the attributes that you want to include. I think just the inner text is good. So what I'm going to do is to copy the selector, go back to the studio, and then edit the selector of this activity. And let's try to validate, and it's good. Okay, so that will be our pattern. And then this activity as an output. So we need to create a variable where we will store the output of this activity. So I think what name can we give on here? Maybe again, let's hit control and then K. Maybe let's name it is exist. Okay. So after that, we need to have an if condition. So let's put is exist. So if is exists equals to true, meaning that the login was successful. So for the meantime, let's just put right line in here saying login successful. But what if the login failed? So what will happen when you log in failed is, if you will simulate it manually, if you failed in the login, you will be having a message box like this. So what we need to do is to click this OK button on this pop-up form. So going back to the studio, we need to add a click activity on the else statement and indicate that pop-up OK button. And let's set the simulate click property to true. And let's also add a right line activity in here. Okay, can I copy this? Copy. Oh, I can't paste it. Why? Okay, say login failed. Okay. Now I think that's all the activity that we need for the System1 login. So it's time to test this workflow. But before you save this workflow, make sure to remove the value that we used earlier. So those two arguments should be blank. Okay, after you remove that, let's save the changes that we've made. And then to test this workflow, we need to use the test workflow. So go here on the underscore test at SAML. And then here we need to invoke the workflow we just created. So where is that? Here. And here you can see in the uh, test SAML, there is a default variable which is config. So let's check this. So we need to set this to config. Okay. And now here you can see that this workflow or the System1 login workflow requires two in arguments. So from the config file, we need to set the value of these two in argument. So for this one, it should be config of system1 URL dot to string. Make sure to add to string or else you will have an error. The next one, oh, did I have an error? Okay, let's check that later. The next one should be the config. Um, okay, okay, I forgot what should be the. Let me check. Okay, the first one is system1 URL. That's correct. The next one is system1 credential. Let's copy that. Put that in here and then add to string. Then let's hit OK. Okay, that should be good. So let's close this. And now let's test this workflow, but make sure to save it first. So again, choose run file. So it should be successful because the username and password that we have from the asset in the orchestrator is correct. So as you can see in there, let's check the output. It says this, that the login was successful, and we are now here on this page. But what? But we also need to test if the credential is wrong. Then will the bot going to click the OK pop-up button? So to test that, we need to edit our credential in here. Let's try to uh, edit the username and the password as well. Let's hit update, and now go back. Okay, let's close first all our open app system1 application. What happened? All right, now go back to the studio and let's test it again. Make sure to select run file. Credential is wrong, and then there is a set time for the bot to wait until it did not found the pattern, so I'm not just sure how long would be that. Okay, it's not clicking. Oh, it's was able to click it. And let's check the output. There, it says that the login failed. So let me just check that activity. Maybe we can see how long does it wait. So element exists. Okay, I think it's not provided in here, but well, I think that's enough for the bot to wait until it exists. So uh, this workflow is successful. So we can now close this one. And then the next workflow that we will be working on is the system1.close. So create a new sequence and again select the system1 folder, and let's name this one system1 close and hit the create button. Now you can see in here on our system1 folder that we already have two workflows. Okay, so the first activity that we need to use is the attach browser activity. So go ahead and look for that. And okay, let me just close this UI Explorer first. So here, indicate that screen. And again, every time you use the attach browser, it's a best practice to edit the selector. Make sure to replace this with a wildcard. So that whenever we call the system1.close and wherever or in whatever page the process is in system1, it will be able to close the page. So let's validate that. And every time you change the selector, make sure that you also click that validate button. And then we need to add a click activity to, okay, let me just log in manually. So we need to click this log out link. So let's indicate that element. Then let me just check the selector if that was correct. Okay, it's correct. And we can set the simulate click to true. So why you use simulate click property? So it is helpful especially when the page is currently um, not in or on the back of another application. So having the simulate click set to true, then the bot will still be able to click it. Okay, and then after you click that, we need to use the close tab activity. Okay, and well, we can test this workflow even if we don't use the underscore test SAML because it does not require any arguments. So let's go ahead and test that. So we have now one open system1 page. Now let's try run trial. Okay, it was able to close the page. So this workflow is also good now. So that's all for this video for now. Then we'll see you again on the next one and we'll go on the additional workflows. We still have a lot of workflows to create on this activity or exercise. So see you there.